What's up, everybody? Teacher Willie here for another video, and today I'm going to continue the series that I started a while back about the present perfect. In the first video, I talked about my 5 different ways that you can use the present perfect, the 5 that I think are the most important. And I explained a little bit about the first way. Since it has been a while, since my last video about the present perfect, I'm going to review again what we talked about in the first video, and I'm going to talk about the second way that we use the present perfect, which is something that started in the past and continues through the present. For those of you that haven't seen the first video, you see what I'm doing there? For those of you that haven't seen the first video, I'll put the link up and to the left, and you can watch that first and then watch this video. Thank you for being here to watch this video with me today. If you would like English tips in Portuguese or classes that I give in Portuguese, then be sure to subscribe down below to this channel, because we do live streams, we do recorded classes, and we do edited videos like this one. Now, if you don't speak Portuguese and you would like to be a part of the new channel that I'm planning for this year, a channel that will be completely in English to learn English, then make sure that you look down below in the description of this video, and you'll be able to join our mailing list so that you will be notified as soon as the new channel is ready. So if you did see the first video, you know that Donald Trump is helping us to learn the present perfect. So let's see some more about President Donald Trump. So welcome back to the computer. Today is going to be again about the present perfect. This time we're going to talk specifically about something that started in the past and continues in the present. So since it's been a while, as I said, we're going to review quickly what the present perfect is. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the present perfect expresses an action or state begun in the past and completed at the time of speaking, or continuing in the present. What does that mean for normal people? Today is the second in a series about the present perfect. In this series, we're highlighting what we consider the most common and most important uses of the present perfect. We will also showcase some of the main extras that are used to make its meaning clearer. As you can see in the image on the left, when something happens in the past and continues in the present, has the potential to happen again in the present, or when the thing occurred is not important, we use the present perfect tense. So we contrast the present perfect with the simple past. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, we use the simple past to talk about a definite time in the past, to talk about single or regular or habitual events or states in the past. When we're referring to a specific time in the past, and that time is important to the sentence, we use what is called the past simple or simple past. We'll cover the simple past in another video, but for now we are using it to compare to the present perfect. So the formation of the present perfect, down to the nuts and bolts, there are 2 important parts of the present perfect. We need to use have or has as an auxiliary verb, and then also use the past participle. So for example, I have had a cold for 3 days. So it has been 3 days that I have been sick, and I am still sick. She has made pasta every night. So during the time that we're talking about, from the time that she first made pasta, she has made it every night and is still making it every night. So comparing the present perfect to the simple past, let's look at different sentences and see why we would use present perfect or simple past. I have eaten steak. I ate steak yesterday. In the first example, the point of the sentence is that I ate steak and not when it happened. Since the time doesn't matter, I use the present perfect. In the second example, the action occurred at a specific point in the past, yesterday. When the action starts and ends at a specific point in the past, we use the simple past. So as I said, today we're talking about an event that started in the past and continues in the present. We started first with an action that has been repeated in the past up to now, and I will put the link to that video up and to the right, so you can watch that video as well. And then in the 3 videos that we'll do after this, and actually we'll do 4 videos, and the last video will be about keywords and the present perfect. But the 3rd video will be an event that happened in the past and hasn't finished. The 4th will be an event that happened in the past, but when it happened isn't important. And the 5th will be an event that finished in the very recent past. So in Teacher Willie's Top 5, in my experience, the present perfect can be divided into these 5 usage categories. And today we're talking about an event that started in the past and continues in the present. So let's look at Donald Trump again. So Donald Trump is helping us to learn the present perfect. Donald Trump has lost a lot of staff. Since the beginning of his administration, Donald Trump has experienced a high level of turnover. In fact, a record-breaking level. The statistic for turnover in the White House began to be tracked in 1981. Since that time, no president, neither Republican nor Democrat, has had a percentage of turnover higher than 17%. As of March 15, 2018, Donald Trump's turnover was a staggering 43%. The fact is, however, that this can't be a surprise to anyone, being that Trump's famous catchphrase has always been, "You're fired." In photos, we have Michael Flynn, Steve Bannon, Rob Porter, Hope Hicks, and James Comey, just some of the people who have either resigned or been fired and left Donald Trump's staff. So here you can see has experienced, we have has had, and has always been. All of these are forms of the present perfect because these are things that from the past until now are true or not true. So for example, since the beginning of his administration, Donald Trump has experienced a high level of turnover. So this is something that started when he became president and has continued until now. It is still happening. The statistic for turnover in the White House began to be tracked in 1981, so that's simple past. That's when it started because it's a specific time. Since that time, no president, neither Republican nor Democrat, has had a percentage of turnover higher than 17%. And then our last example, it can't be a surprise because Trump's famous catchphrase has always been, "You're fired." So his catchphrase from before and apparently still is, "You're fired." Now you'll see these words in purple. These words in purple are vocabulary words for this lesson, and I will be defining them at the end to help you with your vocabulary. Let's look at some of these sentences that we saw in the text and then compare them to if they had been in the simple past. Number one, Donald Trump has lost a lot of staff, gives the idea that it is continuing. And the second sentence, Donald Trump lost a lot of staff in 2018. So when it is a certain time in the past, and that time is important, here, 2018, then we use the simple past. Number two, Donald Trump hasn't kept his staff, so they haven't stayed with him. And so that also gives the idea that it is continuing. And the second sentence, Donald Trump didn't keep his staff intact. So it's something in the past, not connected to now. Number three, has Donald Trump fired everybody? So from the beginning of his presidency until now and continuing, has he fired everybody that works for him? And then the second sentence, did Donald Trump fire all of his staff? Again, no connection with now, but until now, has he fired everyone? So this third sentence is very similar. The two forms are very similar, but the idea in the first sentence is that it could continue, and the idea in the second sentence is that we're talking about a time up to now, but not including now. The present perfect simple versus the present perfect continuous. And I'll do another video after this series explaining more about the present perfect continuous. So the present perfect simple can have interruptions, and the present perfect continuous can't. That is the main difference. If I were to say, I have lived in Palmas for 4 years, that could be understood to mean that I have lived the last 4 years in Palmas. If I were to say I have lived in Boise for 7 years, it could be understood to mean I have lived in Boise for the last 7 years. But it's also possible that there is a break in that time. So for example, I have lived in Boise for 7 years. This is true. I did live in Boise for 7 years. There was a break, and I could return to Boise and live in Boise again, and then that 7 years would become 8 years. But if I use the present perfect continuous, as we have here, I have been living in Palmas for 4 years, that definitely means the last 4 years I have been living in Palmas. So what does this mean? It means if we look at the examples in the images, we have the past until now, and then the thing happening. And then in the first image, there is a break there. Those two slashes represent a break in the time. So for example, let's suppose that I lived in Boise from 2000 to 2007. And then I stopped living in Boise. So I could say I have lived in Boise for 7 years because I can have an interruption in the present perfect simple. In the second image, we see something that is continued without a break. So if it's continued without a break, I can say I have lived in Palmas for 4 years, or I have been living in Palmas for 4 years. I cannot say I have been living in Boise for 7 years because it is not something that has been continuous. It's something that stopped. I can move back, and that number can go from 7 to 8 or 9 or 10, but it's not been continuous at this time. So the vocabulary that we saw in this lesson: turnover is the number of people hired within a period to replace those leaving or dropped from a workforce. It is how we measure the number of people or percentage of people that have left and then been replaced by other people in the workplace. Tracked is to follow the trail or movements of someone or something, typically in order to find them or note their course. So to follow something, to track something, to make note of what's happening in a certain situation for use later on. And usually we use statistics to do that. More vocabulary: Republican is a member of the more conservative of the two major U.S. parties, usually called the right wing. A Democrat is a member of the more liberal or progressive of the two major U.S. parties, often referred to as left wing. Staggering is so great as to cause one to stagger, astonishing or overwhelming. Of this definition, I like astonishing the best. Then we have catchphrase, which is a word or expression that is used repeatedly and conveniently to represent or characterize a person, group, idea, or point of view. So your catchphrase is something that you often use. For example, in my videos, I almost always start off with "What's up, everybody?" And then at the end of our live streams, I often say, "Keep studying." So those are catchphrases. Intact is untouched, especially by anything that harms or diminishes, entire or uninjured. And here I had used it as Trump being unable to keep his staff complete or entire. So a bonus section here, the biggest challenge. So what I have found to be the biggest challenge among my students: in languages like Portuguese, the verb form using the past participle is not used very often. This causes difficulty in proper usage. So what do I mean? Specifically in Portuguese, and maybe in whatever language it is that you speak, they do not use the form that would be like the present perfect in Portuguese very often. It does exist, but it sounds strange in most of the cases where we use present perfect to use a form that would be similar to the present perfect in Portuguese. If that's the case in your language as well, just remember that any time that we have something that starts in the past, continues now, has the potential to continue now, recently ended, or is involved in any of the other situations that we will talk about in this series, that you need to use the present perfect. Thank you for being here today to be part of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you speak Portuguese and would like to be involved in our live streams where I present a tip in English and then answer your questions. Make sure to subscribe and click on the bell icon when I either upload a new video or start a live stream. I would also like to give a very special shout out and special thanks to our supporters on Patreon. At the Super Serious VIP level, Pastor Marcio; the Serious level, Ana Keri; and on the Friend level, Kachi. These people not only support us with love, but they also support us financially so that I can put more time into our videos. If you would like more information on how you can also support the channel, please see patreon.com/AcesEnglishOnline. Thank you for being here today. I hope you learned something. Until next time, I'm Teacher Willie. You can find me at Prof. Willie Brazil, Willie with a Y, Brazil with an S, on Instagram. And while you're here, check out these two videos that I think that you'll really like. Until next time, keep studying.